Hello everyone and welcome to the Retro Café series, a series in which we look back at older game titles and classic reviews, and today I'll be looking at the 1997 release for RayStorm on the PlayStation 1, so let's get right into it. Firstly, let's talk about development. RayStorm is a shoot-'em-up bullet hell game originally released for the Taito FX-1 arcade machine in 1996. Although before getting into the franchise, I didn't realise it actually was the second game in the Ray series, as before it you have Ray Force and then Ray Crisis, which released on the PS3. While it's similar to the core gameplay of Ray Force, its predecessor, RayStorm features some major improvements over its predecessor, such as including 2 playable ships plus an unlockable extra one for the PlayStation 1 and 2 more for the HD re-releases which were on PS3 and Switch, which I'll cover later. You also had a chargeable smart bomb / special attack, which is also known as the laser barrage, which is very akin to a ult or a special attack, and it was the first RayStorm for being in fully 3D with late 90s polygonal graphics, and honestly the graphics is so nostalgic to me. This game is very special to me personally, as when I was younger, me and my sister got a PlayStation 1 original PlayStation for Christmas that year, and this was one of the first games we actually got with it. I think it was RayStorm, Spyro, Metal Gear Solid and Tomb Raider 2, and I have fond memories of sitting on the floor in my living room playing this game with my sister, and we also played it around my uncle's house as well on his PlayStation 1, and the sounds, the graphics, everything from the opening of the game are really nostalgic to me, and since we're here is something which is bound to boost your serotonin levels and nostalgia. The story, although isn't the main focus of the game, takes place in 2119 AD and features a war between the Star Federation and the Sicilian Federation. After the enemy faction win a large galactic war, they then transfer all of Earth's inhabitants to the colonies around the galaxy and announced its intention to destroy the Earth as part of ending the war. We then play as our Grey pilots trying to stop the evil Federation forces from destroying the Earth in Operation RayStorm. Now personally I was never too invested in the story as there's not really much to go off. It's very simple in premise, but it's nice to have some background on where, when and who we're fighting. Gameplay. The gameplay is very arcade-like, with you flying through 8 levels or 8 stages as it's known in the game to rack up a high score and to have leaderboards. Obviously on an arcade machine this is more prevalent because you'll have random people competing for leaderboards, whilst on a home console it's whoever's in that household fighting for the leaderboards, so to speak. The goal of each level is to defeat as many enemies as you can and then a big boss at the end to progress on to the next level. The game features 2 playable ships, or R-Greys, being the R-Grey 1 and the R-Grey 2. The R-Grey 1, which is a well-rounded ship and equipped with both green tracking lock-on shots and lasers, as well as the R-Grey 2, which player 2 would take control of usually, but in the game you can actually choose which one or which player has which ship. Basically the R-Grey 2 has 2 straight beams that shoot out narrowly with lightning lock-on attacks which can be used to chain enemies. Although it's harder to master, in my opinion the R-Grey 2 is the better ship, for me at least personally. You can also gain power-ups which refill lock-on shots as well as the special meter, as well as to gain points to rack up a high score. Music. The soundtrack for RayStorm features some absolute bangers, and here are some of my favourites which have also been playing out throughout the video itself, so let's have a listen. In terms of different versions of the game, so in terms of different ports, we have the original Sony PlayStation port, which released in 1997. This was the version myself and my sister played when we were growing up. And then you have the Sega Saturn port, which was exclusively released in Japan as Layer Section 2 by MediaQuest. This is actually known as the most inferior port. RayStorm was also then ported for Windows 98 and 95 by Cyberfront. RayStorm HD was then released on the PS3 through the PlayStation Network and obviously the online shop, as well as Xbox 360 through the Xbox Live Arcade back in 2010. The game also had an iOS port which was released in 2012 with touchscreen technology and controls, and finally, till modern day, in 2023 we now have a Ray series collection in HD which features Ray Crisis, Ray Storm and Ray Force, all in HD, all in 1080p for the Nintendo Switch, which will get its own video on the Retro Café series eventually. In terms of the after-launch reception, the game was received well after launch and it was praised for its music, 3D graphics and gameplay, but in the actual community of the fanbase of this series and online with most reviewers and, game publication articles, it's not actually considered the best Ray game in the series. That title would go to Ray Force, which apparently is the best in the series. Unfortunately I haven't played it for myself, but maybe one day. In terms of extras and spoilers, the game includes 13 ships mode, which is unlocked upon completion of extra mode, because in the game you have arcade mode and extra mode. Basically, when you complete extra mode for the first time, you have the ability to go through the entire game with 13 ships and lives throughout, without continues essentially, so if you lose all of those 13 lives, you're out. Then if you complete arcade mode or extra mode, you then also get a stage select, so you can go back and pick the stage that you actually want to play without having to go through the whole game again. Personally, I could never get past stage 6 nowadays, as apparently I suck at the game, and stage 3 as a child. I always couldn't get past the final sort of plain ship boss. It would always get me with like these yellowy white tracking lasers that would come after you. I could never get past this stage as a child, and it was only up until I played the game again, sort of my teens, on my PS3 through backwards compatibility, that I was able to actually beat it. So in conclusion, this video was made with so much love for RayStorm on the original PlayStation. Like I said earlier, I grew up with this game and I will always be in debt, as me and my sister always used to argue over who could play the PlayStation. I have an older sister, so she sort of had priority and seniority in that regard. However, things like Crash 3, Spyro, Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider, Wipeout, Gran Turismo, Ridge Racer and so many more, I just loved playing it, and this is one of the games, because like I said, this was one of the games that came with my original PlayStation. But in terms of objectively speaking, we take all the rose-tinted goggles and nostalgia out. For me, RayStorm is still a great game. I will admit the fact that it actually can't handle analog play, so analog stick play, so obviously the original PlayStation launched without analog sticks and the game was made for that, but they never sort of made it so that you could play with analog stick with the DualShock. And for me, this is a massively missed opportunity on the original version, as I'm not gonna lie, flying around with the D-pad becomes a bit difficult at times for quick reactions. A analog stick, which would be much better because you can move in more directions. Obviously this was fixed in the HD re-release and the different ports, but that's just one for me anyway. So anyway guys, tell me in the comments below, did you ever play any of the Ray series games? Did you ever play RayStorm on the original PS1? Tell me what you think about it, and thank you for watching another episode of the Retro Café series. If you guys want any more videos, there's a playlist that will be on the screen right now containing games like Super Mario Galaxy, Jet Set Radio and Mass Effect, which I've done so far. Thank you so much for watching, and for more classic game reviews and gaming news in general, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.